right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to begin with the opening statements made by the lawyers in the case. Let me remind you from my instructions to you yesterday that any statements made to you by the attorneys during the course of their opening statements are not evidence and should not be considered as such by you. These opening statements are normally given by the attorneys to sort of give you an overall view of the evidence that they intend to present. It's to give you a roadmap, so to speak, as to how to evaluate the evidence. This case, as you know, will be relatively long, and by necessity, some of this evidence will be presented to you out of chronological or logical order. So they'll need to explain to you the case that they intend to present. All right, are both sides prepared to go forward, Mr. Cochran?
We are, Your Honor.
Mr. Clark?
Yes, we are, Your Honor.
All right, do the people wish to make an opening statement?
Yes, we do.
All right, you may proceed. Mr. Darden? Thank you.
Your Honor, Judge Ito, Mr. Cochran, and Mr. Shapiro, and Dean Ullman, and to my colleagues seated here today in front of you, and to the real parties in interest in this case, the Brown family, the Goldman family, and the Simpson family, and to you ladies and gentlemen of the jury, good morning. I think it's fair to say that I have the toughest job in town today. Except for the job that you have. Your job may just be a little bit tougher, but your job, and like my job, both have a central focus, a single objective, and that objective is justice, obviously. It's going to be a long trial, and I want you to know how much we appreciate your being on the panel. We appreciate the personal sacrifices you're making by being sequestered. We understand that can be difficult. And I'd like to thank you in advance for keeping the promises you made to us when you were selected for the jury initially. You promised to be fair. You promised to be open-minded. You promised to hear and see and carefully consider all the evidence in the case. And you promised to find this case, to come to a verdict in this case solely on the basis of the evidence and the law given to you by Judge Ito. And you promised to do that based on the law, based on the facts and the evidence, and nothing else. You promised us that you had no hidden agenda, that you only wanted to see justice done, and you promised us that you would do everything you could under the law to see that justice was done. And so I thank you for that, and I thank you in advance for the verdict you will at some point render in this case. And we're here today, obviously, to resolve an issue, to settle a question that has been on the minds of people throughout the country these last 7 months. It certainly has been on the mind of my people up in Richmond, California, and friends in Fayetteville, Georgia, and all across the country, and everybody wants to know, and everybody I know often pose the question to me, did O.J.Simpson really kill Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman? Well, finally, ladies and gentlemen, I am here in front of you this morning to answer that question. And we'll answer that question from the witness stand, and from the exhibits you'll see in this case, and from the evidence. And when you see the evidence, and when you hear the witnesses, and when you put it all together and consider the totality of circumstances in this case, the answer will be clear to you as well. The answer to the question is yes. The evidence will show that the answer to the question is yes. O.J. Simpson murdered Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman.